Hi, this is Pat Moorhead, and we're back for the 6-5 Summit Day 2, talking about something that you all know that I love semiconductors. I mean, who doesn't love semiconductors? I think we thought 10 years ago that they weren't as important as they thought, and then we all realized that the whole world relies on semiconductors. And it is my honor to introduce Jinman Han from Samsung, the number one or number two, depending on the day, semiconductor company on the planet, and also a very large investor in the Austin, Texas area which, okay, maybe I'm a little bit biased. I'm from Austin, and I really do appreciate that. But particularly in today's conversations about navigating the semiconductor landscape globally, it is very, very important. So, Jinman, welcome to the 6-5 Summit.
Hey, thank you, Pat. It's great to be here. The 6-5 Summit is perfect framework for us to talk about all the things relating to semiconductor. It's a great honor. Thank you for having me.
Listen, we've had the most important companies and the most relevant executives, and you fit right absolutely in there. So maybe we'll start broad here. I mean, Samsung Semiconductor is involved in literally every element. I mean, whether it goes all the way from the consumer all the
Mhm.
way to the data center and literally everything in between. So I can't imagine anybody better than ask you a very broad question about some of the major trends that are driving the semiconductor market right now.
Yeah. So right now we're talking about a lot about AI applications, but when you look around us, there are a lot of products that really need semiconductor. If you need some kind of a small intelligence in your devices, you really have to have a semiconductor. So I think even though we are talking about the big growth of AI caused by this large language model, but when you look in detail about what we are having today, everything has semiconductor inside it. So I think this trend will continue, and we never know what's going to happen, what we can see, what great technology we're going to see in the future. So semiconductor is the most important critical component that we're going to have. I mean, all the people on earth really need the semiconductor to make their life happier, easier, and communicate with their friends and families. I don't know how we can live without this semiconductor.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving that big picture viewpoint. And also, it's funny. I've been having some conversations with some company CEOs, and we're kind of joking between the amount of discussion versus the amount of sales and demands when it comes to generative AI. It's
Mhm.
definitely going to be a force in the future. But meanwhile, right, hundreds and billions of semiconductors
Right,
for various. I mean, for our cars. I mean,
right,
we saw when the pandemic hit the challenge of just shipping basic goods and just how important that's going to be in into the future. So let's talk about semiconductor manufacturing and the importance in the U.S. and to the U.S. economy. I mean, there's been a just a ton of discussion about secure supply chain, getting more a predictable supply chain in the middle of global politics. But it's not an easy thing. You can't just turn on a foundry like a light switch, right?
right,
It's years of planning. It's hundreds and billions of dollars in investments.
right. You know what? Surprisingly, the semiconductor is top five U.S. export in terms of revenue. Not many people are aware of that. I think the most of the top revenue export from USA is all about oils and refined and raw, and then natural gas, aircraft. But one of the five top US export is really semiconductor. US accounts for about I think it's about 50% market share in semiconductor revenue. So US is doing pretty well. But
Right.
when you think about manufacturing itself, uh, I think US accounts for about 10% of wafer production in the world, which is a little bit, not balanced in terms of uh, resiliency for the semiconductor industry. So I think it's very critical imperative to have solid manufacturing capacity in the USA so that you can balance uh, uh, very well balanced portfolio in terms of semiconductor export. So I think it's really exciting for us to have new plans to build fab in Central Texas, and I think that explains why Samsung want to be uh, having fabs have capacity in the USA. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great move. I applaud it 100%. So it's not, it's even though the global manufacturing supply chain is shifting a little, and I like to say that the calculus is changing a little bit of where
hmm
end customers would like to have their chips manufactured. But what role does the US play in this global market? So, kind of shifting from this US to global.
U.S. role, I mean, is so critical. Look at this uh, innovations happening in Silicon Valley these days. By the way, I'm now in the middle of Silicon Valley, so I know pretty well what's going on. Everybody's talking about new technologies. So innovation really starts here, and we see every day, new application, new use cases from this new innovations happening in Silicon Valley, of course, across USA. So I think this is where semiconductor company has to be because otherwise you cannot understand what kinds of semiconductor you have to develop in the future, right? So at the same time, we have this great software technologies happening, developed by USA engineers, and they all needs hardware so that they can run all their software smoothly and in a very efficient and low power consumption, all those environment issues. So we really have to be here so that we can provide best technology, best hardware technology, especially in semiconductor area. So this is a win-win situation for all of us, right? And I think we can see great things in the future by combining this semiconductor as well as software capabilities in the USA.
Yeah, and you're not new to this. I mean, you have been in Texas as long as I've lived in Texas. And so none of this is new to Samsung, and I think that gives you an edge here. So I alluded to this in the run up here, but one of the things that I think reinforced even around the dinner table how important semiconductors were the recent chip shortages and supply chain disruptions. We couldn't get the cars we wanted. We couldn't get the PCs, the smartphones, the TVs, the game consoles. I mean, everything was a stock out. Do you think having more foundries in the U.S. and manufacturing more of these goods onshore or closer to the shore will eliminate or mitigate some of these future disruptions?
I would say, yeah, definitely it'll mitigate the problem we have seen over the last 2 or 3 years during the pandemic. But I don't think it's gonna, solve all the problems that we had before. But it'll certainly help because if you are very right next to your customer, you can really understand the demand, forecast and what they're really concerned about. But even though we are living in the world of internet and everybody can talk through Zooms, but nothing better than talk in face to face. I think that, yeah, that'll help a lot, quite a lot. But just having manufacturing facility in USA will not entirely solve all the problem. But it's a good start. That's what I believe. It's a good start.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I know this isn't the topic of this call, but right, you have to have PCAs,
Mhm.
PCBs, and
Yeah,
closures to
right.
really to really,
Yes.
but I think chips are the long pole in the tent,
Right.
as I think, we saw.
Sometimes,
So
yeah,
yeah,
sometimes we need just semiconductor of few cents worth of semiconductor. That's the whole component that we really need. During the pandemic, we had to produce more chips. We really wanted to produce more chips, but we had a trouble getting wafer tools.
right.
And our wafer tool supplier are complaining that they cannot get chips for their food to be made. So it was a really really
It's really
strange
a
situation.
challenging loop, right? I
Yeah,
mean, you need
right.
chips to make the machines that make the wafers that end up making the chips. I'm hopeful, here in the United States, and I know there are initiatives in other parts of the world.
Mhm.
The United States created the CHIPS Act to try to incent investment in the
Mhm.
manufacturing and a little bit of the R&D that goes into that,
Right.
for the US. So the question I have for you is, I'm sure you've applied for it. Is the US government doing enough to support, more semiconductor manufacturing, in the US?
Yeah, so I think what we really need here is to have a level playing field because it's obvious that producing semiconductor in the Eastern Asia is really cost effective compared to here in USA. So I think that's one of the reasons why US government subsidize, incentivize us so that they can fill the gap between other areas and in USA. So I think it's a very good initiative. But at the same time, each company has to deal with all different kinds of uh, ecosystem they have built outside USA. So it's going to be very different from company to company. But overall, labor costs and manufacturing costs, even we are a little bit short of workers to construction for construction. There's all different kinds of um, issues we have to solve with. So we are right now in very close conversation with US officials. I think they help us quite a lot, and they're trying to understand the intricacy of this semiconductor operation. So I think it's going to be a big help to us to be have a very competitive and sustainable capacity in the United States.
Yeah, I think it's vital that, Samsung gets support here in the United States, given your history. And quite frankly, there are some other foundries who are coming over that have never had a foundry here
Right.
in the United States, and I question, even if they know how to operate, in the US. I've
Right.
seen some quotes in the press, and it's not exactly a way to ingratiate yourself, in the United States. And I think we both know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
uh,
yeah, we have this uh, semiconductor foundry operation in Central Texas in Austin. We've been operating that facility for the last 27 years.
yes.
So I don't I cannot think of any other company who have been operating in the United States have, and you know what? Sometimes the yield in that fab is higher than the fab in Korea, which is amazing. It was really surprising to us. So Samsung is one of the companies, very few companies who mastered the operation of semiconductor production in the United States. We are so proud of this.
You should be. And the other thing that I've noticed, again, I've lived in Austin for over 20 years. You've been a very good corporate citizen, as well. And I think, you're getting the job done, high yields, benefit to Samsung and its shareholders, but also on the other side, you've been a very good corporate citizen for the people, inside of Austin, and that's hard to do. So no learning curve for you, with your new investments, here, in Texas, and I'm hopeful that, the U.S. government will listen, to all of that. So,
Yeah.
um, I've seen a lot of big announcements, that came out about commitments here in Central Texas. Um, Aside from that, I mean, what are the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for you as we move forward here?
Yeah, so I think US has great wafer tool manufacturers and great innovations, great talent pool, but the sheer number of engineers and technicians we're gonna need is a real challenge for us to solve in the future. I think it is, US has been focused on more like software, centered engineering activities. So there are not many students who are right now studying for semiconductor manufacturing. So that's a real change. I think industry-wise, we really have to come up with solution to solve that, address the problem. So it's all about people, really, Pat. It's really all about people.
Yeah, it is, and I think that if that's what Texas and Austin has to do to step up, I think that
Mhm.
that's important. We have a lot of schools that again have fed for 20 years the Samsung foundries here in the
Yeah.
area, but generally, right, education. I mean, the talent and education required. I mean, the X percent of PhDs
Right.
required to operate a
Right.
foundry is stunning. So let's follow. Let's. It's been a great discussion. I've really enjoyed this. Again, I was surprised that you and I had never met, given how long we've been
Right.
in
Yep.
semiconductors together. But it's just a real honor. Can we talk about some of the advantages that Samsung Foundry Technologies has over its competitors? Samsung is a little bit of a silent company
Right. You
related
can say that.
to,
Yeah.
and maybe that's the reason why we had never met before. But it's evident just in, I mean, Samsung is the number one semiconductor company on the planet,
Mhm.
and you know how to do this. So let's brag a little. I please educate some of our viewers on your technological advantage that the foundry has.
Okay. First of all, I really like to talk about memory business.
Yes.
Right now, I believe that the market size for memory and advanced logic are almost comparable. They're almost the same size. This year, I'm afraid memory market size is going to be a little lower than foundry because
Oh,
down.
listen,
Yeah,
it is up and down. I'm not
right.
surprised. Nobody to be. It's always feast or
Yeah,
famine, right? I mean, it just is.
it's cyclical, right? So right now, Samsung has, for example, in DRAM, we have more than 40% of market share, and in foundry, but we have a little bit less, a little bit about 15% market share, which is huge. But compared to other leading companies, we are not still uh, the number one in terms of capacity. But combining memory and foundry, I think, yeah, right. Samsung might be the very few companies who have huge presence in the semiconductor. So what we're really trying to do is we really want to replicate the memory experiences so that we can be a leading company, not just for revenue in a terms of point of view. We really want to provide technology. So Samsung Foundry is the first company who introduced FinFET technologies to the market. We are also at the same time the first company who introduced gate all around technology to the
Okay.
market. Yeah, but having technology in the first on the market doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a leading company. So there are a lot of things for us to do. We have to focus more on customer support, technical support, and at the same time, really want to introduce scalable, advanced foundry technologies to the customer because that's going to help a lot of software engineers' dream come true, make the dream come true. So we will working very hard to introduce this very advanced, innovative semiconductor technology to the market, and we're trying to be competing against ourselves. And if we keep doing that, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be a very good supplier of semiconductor, industry, both in memory and in advanced logic. And at the same time, we are also working on these advanced packages. Right now, some people are talking about, we are nearing the end of the Moore's law, but I beg to differ. We may come up with different kinds of innovations to, continue this great Moore's law. And one of the solutions we have, I think not just us, a lot of companies are talking about new innovation in packaging technology. So, Pat, think about this. We have, if you can come up with very advanced logic and and also have this great memory technologies as well as packaging, we might be the very few companies on earth who can really combine all those technologies and give holistic solution to our customers. So that's the vision of Samsung Semiconductor.
I'm glad you brought that up, and memory is becoming so important related to those packages of
Right.
let's say chiplets to pull
Hmm.
all of that capability together. And I definitely see that triumvirate of
Right.
capabilities coming together, particularly when you get into the large die uh, type of
Right.
uh, type of applications
Hmm.
that get some benefit from that. So Jinman, I want to thank you so much for sharing
Hmm.
your insights and experiences and talking about the foundry business, pointing out your decades long presence here. It's in Central Texas. Your prowess, not just in logic, but also in memory as well. And those two things are very different. And also talking at the end about um, packages. And I
Hmm.
think packaging, as it does get a little bit more difficult uh, to to hit what your end customers want, is becoming vitally important. 20 years ago, well, I guess 30 years ago, when I got into the business, packaging was an afterthought, and now it has
Right.
to be fundamentally
Exactly.
into the design of the overall
Right.
solution. So, thank you so much for coming on, and I hope that we can have continued discussions in
Yep.
the future.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really want to see you more often and talk about all the great things we have. We have a lot of stories, so I really want to share with you more
I
often.
would love to do that. Thanks again.
Thank you.
So this is Pat Moorhead signing off for an incredible discussion with Samsung Semiconductor. I hope you will tune in to all of the day two semiconductor action and also the other tracks. If you missed day one, don't worry. It is on recorded and you can go back and check it out whenever you want. And stick around for day three. We are having strategic conversations with the most relevant companies and the highest level executives out there. Stay tuned. Take care.